One that consists mostly of immigrants, where unemployment and crime rates are much higher, where many people can't speak Swedish.
You live in a country you can't speak the language.
It's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.
Yo, my beautiful people, we are back again today on this beautiful day. Guys, today we are going to check out why Sweden doesn't want immigrants anymore, okay? I said earlier, there's a rising anti-immigrant sentiment that is sweeping across the world right now because of the atrocities that have been committed around the world, okay? People are associating them with immigrants, okay? But I'm going to tell you, it is not all the immigrants, okay? There are honest immigrants that have come in legally. All right, they are working hard. They are working tooth and nail, all right, to make sure they contribute to the economy, to make sure they are law-abiding citizens, they learn the culture, learn the language, they assimilate. But then there are those ones that come in that pretend they are war refugees, okay, they're coming illegally to take advantage of the system. And for some reason, I don't know why the governments are letting those ones in. The ones that are legal, yeah, it is a slap in their face when you just accept those ones that come in to cause atrocities, okay? It's not fair, all right, because they're tarnishing the image of all immigrants, not just one race of immigrants. They're tarnishing the images of all the immigrants, be it Arabs, be it Africans, be it Indians, be it whatever, all right, even be it the European citizens, all right? Anyway, that's not too much, guys. Today we are going to check out this one, okay? Let's get this one started. All right.
For decades, Sweden was known for having one of the most open and welcoming immigration policies in the world, with a reputation as a humanitarian superpower, where being open to immigrants was an integral part of the Swedish identity. But
Little did they know,
at some point in recent years, this has changed. Today, the public opinion has turned against further immigration. The Swedish government is claiming that management of this issue has failed, and the
Swedish voters boost anti-immigration party amid high crime. I've been seeing it all around. They say wherever there's high immigration, they've noticed that the crime rate is so high. Swedish PM says integration of immigrants has failed, fueled gang crime.
country is now radically
Sweden,
changing
as
its
we know it, is dying, from welcoming migrants to discouraging them.
immigration policies. But what happened? Why is Sweden now changing course after decades of being friendly and open? And why did Sweden fail at managing this issue? This is why Sweden doesn't want immigrants anymore.
Listen, it is sad. It is sad. I think the government just needs better selection process. That's it. Better vetting process, okay, to pick the right ones to come in.
But to understand what's going on, we need to explain how we got here, because immigration is a surprisingly recent chapter of the Swedish history. Until the 1940s, Sweden was an overwhelmingly homogeneous country, with only a negligible amount of people coming in. And although it became a haven for refugees from the Nazi-occupied Europe during the Second World War, by 1945, only 2% of its population were foreign-born, and immigration remained very tightly regulated. But since the late 1970s, that has changed, and Sweden radically opened up and started accepting people escaping wars and totalitarian regimes coming in from literally all over the world, from the Eastern Bloc to dictatorships in South America and the Middle East. Throughout the years, those policies were restricted now and then when the numbers got too high, but the overall trend was clear. And then came the European migration crisis. As the Middle East was getting increasingly more unstable, more and more people from Syria and Iraq started heading towards Europe, joined by hundreds of thousands of people from Afghanistan and Africa, running from danger or simply looking for a better life. And Sweden started accepting more refugees per capita than any other nation in Europe, taking in 160,000 people, the equivalent of 2% of its population at the peak in 2015. Today, over 2 million people, or 20% of Sweden's population, have been born outside of Sweden, making Sweden one of the most diverse countries in the world. And
how many percent?
Today, over 2 million people, or 20% of Sweden's population, have been born outside of Sweden, making Sweden one of the most diverse countries in the world, and one which, in the words of its former prime minister, accepts immigrants and doesn't build walls. Except that's no longer true, and Swedish leaders now sound very different.
Wait, listen, I don't understand it. I don't get it. Okay? Like, even if, yes, then we understood, yeah, that yes, you're being helpful, taking people in, alright? But it makes sense to accept a controlled amount of people. I think it's just logical. For me, it's just common sense. You accept a controlled amount of people, like a low number, a number that you know you can manage. Gradually, you take them in slowly, not in mass. Okay? This is in mass. You just got flooded by foreign nationals. Like, how can they learn? The pace at which they will learn will be hard. And when they come in, they will interact among themselves and learning becomes more difficult. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm speaking because I'm not a politician. So maybe I don't understand how the politics works. But I'm just using common sense.
In 2022, the Swedish Prime Minister from a traditionally pro-immigration Socialist Democratic Party declared that integration of immigrants in Sweden has failed, which led to parallel societies and gang violence, and that the country needs to re-evaluate its beliefs and make some tough decisions. And this major shift is a reflection of how Swedes feel about immigration, and how their views have changed in the past few years. According to an annual opinion poll carried out by Gothenburg University, majority of Swedes now want their country to accept fewer refugees. Number of people who feel positive about immigration has dropped by 20% to less than half.
Wow.
And 73% of Swedes think that integration of immigrants in their country has been unsuccessful, a higher number than in any other European country. In other words, the statement of the Swedish Prime Minister that the integration has failed was a public acknowledgement of how most of the country actually feels. But why does an overwhelming majority of people think that their country has failed at integrating immigrants? Well, the most frequently mentioned concern regarding immigration is criminality, or specifically a surge in violent criminality that Sweden seems to be experiencing.
Sverige har aldrig förr sett något liknande.
In recent years,
Sweden has never seen any like it.
Sweden has seen the kind of violence that the country has rarely experienced before. Wars and violent clashes between rival gangs that take place in the streets in the form of shootings and bomb attacks. According to the Swedish National Police Chief, in 2023, Sweden has experienced the most violence the country has ever had. And while
Wait. Before taking immigrants, Sweden was nice, was chill. Like, things were going on well. Of course, there'll be little crimes here and there, but things were generally okay. And then after immigration, they have escalating gang crimes. They're having bombs being thrown, gunfights on the street.
While this is a very sensitive issue in Sweden, it is hard to overlook that immigration does play a role in that. The gangs involved in drug trade and arms trafficking are mostly made up by people from immigrant backgrounds, and immigrants are roughly 3 times more likely to be involved in criminal activity than people with Swedish origin. But the issue is more complex than that, and it goes beyond the increase in crime rates. The thing is that although Sweden is sometimes depicted as a crime-infested country,
You look at what's happening last night in Sweden.
the fact is that it is in general still pretty safe, with crime rates comparable to the European average and much lower than in most of the United States. And while crime dominates the headlines, it doesn't actually directly affect most of the Swedish population. And that's because, as the Prime Minister pointed out, the story of Sweden is now a tale of two countries that exist next to each other but that are very different.
Nah, this is sad. Rest in peace, Sweden. But it's never late. It's never too late. Never too late. Did he say a tale of two countries existing next to each other? So basically, there are two worlds right now in Sweden. Two countries.
The first Sweden is the safe, peaceful, and progressive country that you probably imagine, where most of the native Swedes live, and where crime, unemployment, and poverty is 0 to none. And while people read about the problems, they are rarely personally affected by them. But then there's the second Sweden, one that consists mostly of immigrants, where unemployment and crime rates are much higher, where many people can't speak Swedish, and where teenagers join gangs for...
You live in a country you can't speak the language. You live in that country you cannot speak the language. Oh my days. Even as a tourist, traveling to countries, I learned the language. I've learned a bit of German. Hallo Leute, ich bin Shady and Ziga. When I make my videos, I go, ich habe ein Reaction-Video für euch. Basically, I can introduce myself. I can ask questions about things. I even learned some Spanish. But it is sad you live in a country and you can't speak the language. That is disgusting.
lack of better choices. And that's where the integration really failed. It allowed the existence of two completely different worlds within one country that are separated by where you're from, but also by class, education, language, or how safe people can feel. And it doesn't work for anyone. Not for people who are now waking up to seeing gang violence that would be previously unheard of. And not for the immigrants who are affected by it the most, and who find it extremely difficult to move on from one Sweden to the other one. But why did Sweden fail so badly at properly integrating immigrants after deciding to accept so many of them? Well, there are a few different reasons. First, the sheer numbers mean that integration was always going to be difficult. In 2 decades, the immigrant population has basically doubled, as Sweden accepted more immigrants per capita than any other European country. But this was made more complicated by the fact that Sweden did not have a selective approach to immigration, but rather a humanitarian one, meaning that while some countries prefer to take in mostly the highly skilled, highly educated people that will represent a net economic benefit, Sweden has been mostly accepting low-skilled immigrants from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, who often need asylum the most, but who have the most difficult time to integrate. In a highly developed economy like Sweden, where less than 5% of jobs are suitable for people without any qualification, low-skilled immigrants naturally struggle to succeed on the job market, and as a consequence, to integrate into the society. And while this would be a challenge to any country, Sweden made this even more difficult by focusing on a particularly soft approach to how you work with the immigrants. Rather than making integration into Swedish society a requirement, it emphasized people's rights to preserve their own cultures and languages. Did
they actually do that? I mean, yeah, it's nice for people to preserve their cultures, yeah, but you preserve your cultures where your culture is meant to be. You preserve your culture in your country. Preserve your identity in your country, preserve it there. If you want to preserve it in a different place, then you can have like a small community. So when I say small community, community, control community, where it can be expressed, not one where it grows out of proportion. Okay, like even in the UK, there's the carnival for the Jamaicans, yeah, the Caribbeans. It's also preserving the culture. The whole of the well, not the whole of UK, but a lot of British people, a lot of other immigrants from other places participate to enjoy the culture. There are different places. We have a place called Chinatown where you go to experience the Chinese culture. They're preserving the culture there, but it is not a threat. It's more like an exhibition. Okay, a display of a culture for people to see, learn, and want to explore it, and hopefully travel to your country and experience the full culture there, but not for the culture to come here and take over.
It emphasized people's rights to preserve their own cultures and languages in schools and public institutions. But while this approach was seen as superior, in hindsight, it probably helped to further isolate the immigrant population from the majority of the Swedish society. Since last year, Sweden has been led by a government that has an immigration reform as one of its main priorities, and it's making some major changes. Sweden is now making it much more difficult to obtain an asylum asylum as a refugee. It's cracking down on people living in the country illegally. It's restricting low-skilled labor immigration, and it now requires integration, for example, learning the language, as a condition for long-term stay and obtain.
Of course, of course, of course, long time. You should have put that in a long time ago.
It's restricting low-skilled labor immigration, and it now requires integration, for example, learning the language, as a condition for long-term stay and obtaining welfare benefits. And so, looking at its immigration policies, Sweden is now a radically different country than just a few years ago. The country, famous as a humanitarian superpower, seems to be gone, and at least for now, it looks like it's not coming back.
Some countries on my radar were Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, okay, but I didn't know Sweden's situation was this bad at all, okay. I never knew it was this bad, but it is sad though. It's sad what immigrants have done, okay. Well, not all immigrants, but what these immigrants, the illegal ones, the asylum seekers, saying they need help, but coming in and destroying the civilization that they met, okay, coming in and introducing crime. Like, it is unfair. Actually, it is just unfair on the rest of the immigrants, unfair on the rest of the people, because now you are causing these repercussions to be faced by other innocent migrants. All right, that is unfair. Okay, that's what I think. But I hope Sweden does sort out this situation, okay, because having parallel worlds just shows that multiculturalism, for it to work, yeah, look, we just need to have a different approach, okay, because so far it's proven to fail, okay. So far it's proven to fail. Like, I've seen the evidence even in the UK. I've seen it so much, and I'm like, how can you allow this? Anyway, guys, it's been your boy Shady. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. I'm gonna catch you in the next video, but I hope Sweden sorts this out. All right, peace out.
Oh, I love you more than words can say. You are me. Oh, you are the light that shine in my way. You are me. Oh, I love you more than words can say. You are me. Oh, you are the light that shine in my way.